Once hailed as the pride of the Royal Navy, the Queen Elizabeth-class aircraft carriers were envisioned as the centerpiece of Britain's naval resurgence. These floating air bases represent the largest and most expensive warships ever constructed for the United Kingdom. Designed to project power across the globe, they were meant to ensure Britain's continued influence in international affairs and maritime security. But now, less than a decade into active service, these vessels face mounting questions about their relevance, their vulnerabilities, and their future. As the landscape of modern warfare evolves at an unprecedented pace, these iconic ships are caught in a storm of hypersonic missile threats, budgetary constraints, manpower shortages, and disruptive military technologies. Can Britain adapt in time, or are its carriers already sailing toward obsolescence? Segment 1. Hypersonic missiles. The game changer. One of the most urgent threats facing aircraft carriers today is the rise of hypersonic weapons. Unlike traditional cruise missiles, hypersonic missiles travel at speeds exceeding Mach 5, more than 5 times the speed of sound, and are capable of maneuvering unpredictably during flight. Russia S-3M2 Zircon and China SDF-21D carrier killers are just a few examples of these next-generation weapons, which pose a near-impossible challenge for conventional ship defenses like Sea Scepter or Phalanx, CIWS. The margin for error is razor-thin. By the time a carrier detects a hypersonic missile, there may be mere seconds to respond. And for ships the size of the HMS Queen Elizabeth, a successful hit could result in catastrophic damage. These developments call into question whether any large surface vessel, no matter how advanced, can survive in a contested environment dominated by these high-speed threats. Segment 2. Budget constraints and shrinking. Capabilities building aircraft carriers is one, thinking them operational is another. The Queen Elizabeth-class program cost over £6 billion, but sustaining these massive ships requires continuous investment in escorts, aircraft, training, and logistics. Yet the Royal Navy has been stretched thin. Years of budget austerity and competing priorities have led to the cancellation of a third carrier. And at times, the two existing vessels struggle to maintain full operational readiness. With much of the UK's defence budget allocated to nuclear deterrence and overseas deployments, resources for the carrier strike group have become increasingly limited. The result? Gaps in availability, reduced deployments, and an over-reliance on international allies to fill capability gaps. Segment 3. The manpower crisis and rise of automation. Behind every warship is a crew, but the Royal Navy is struggling to find enough sailors to fill its ranks. A persistent recruitment and retention crisis has forced the Navy to reduce staffing levels and turn to automation to fill the void. The Queen Elizabeth-class ships were designed with a smaller crew size than previous carriers, made possible by advanced systems for maintenance and ship operations. But less human presence on board could also mean reduced resilience in emergencies, from fires to battle damage. While automation offers a path toward cost efficiency, it raises serious questions. Can machines replace the adaptability and judgment of experienced sailors in moments of crisis? And are these ships truly combat-ready under current staffing levels? Segment 4. The F-35 Dilemma. Shared jets. Limited wings and aircraft carrier without aircraft is just an oversized floating target. And yet Britain's carriers have faced difficulties in fielding a full complement of fighter jets. Due to cost constraints, the Royal Navy and Royal Air Force have adopted the Joint Lightning Force model, sharing a limited number of F-35Bs between the two services. On paper, this sounds efficient. But in practice, it means that carriers often sail with fewer jets than they were designed to support. Full strike group exercises are rare, and maintenance delays further reduce aircraft availability. This has led the UK to sometimes rely on US Marine Corps aircraft to fill gaps during joint operations, an arrangement that highlights cooperation, but also dependency. Segment 5. Reliance on the US Navy. Strength or weakness? Cooperation with the United States remains a cornerstone of Britain's defense policy. But over-reliance on American support, particularly for carrier strike group logistics, refueling, and escorts, reveals a limitation in Britain's independent force projection. While these partnerships enhance capabilities in the short term, they also create strategic vulnerabilities. If U.S. priorities shift or, if geopolitical tensions strain, the alliance, Britain could find itself with world-class ships, but no way to deploy them effectively. In a multipolar world where alliances can shift rapidly, maintaining operational independence is more than a matter of pride, it's a matter of national security. Segment 6. Drone warfare and naval vulnerability. Perhaps the most disruptive force on today's battlefield is not a billion-dollar fighter jet, but a cheap, expendable drone. As seen in conflicts like Ukraine, swarms of unmanned drones can overwhelm traditional defenses and inflict serious damage at a fraction of the cost. Navies around the world are now grappling with how to counter these threats. The Royal Navy, despite its investments in cutting-edge vessels, has limited experience with large-scale drone defense. If hostile forces deploy thousands of drones in coordinated attacks, can the Queen Elizabeth class survive such a swarm? The answer may depend not on the ship's steel, but on its software and on how quickly the Royal Navy adapts to this new era of warfare. Segment 7. The future of aircraft carriers. End of an era. Carriers have long been symbols of national power, floating runways that bring air dominance to any shore. But the combined pressure of hypersonic threats, rising costs, and asymmetric warfare tactics is forcing many to ask, are carriers becoming obsolete? Some analysts argue for investing in smaller, more agile platforms like drone carriers, missile ships, stealth submarines that are harder to detect and cheaper to deploy. Others maintain that carriers still have a role to play, especially in peacekeeping, humanitarian aid, and power projection, if properly defended and modernized. The debate isn't just academic. It will shape how navies are built, funded, and deployed for decades to come. Conclusion. The Queen Elizabeth-class carriers are marvels of engineering and symbols of British ambition. But their future is anything but guaranteed. As threats evolve, budgets tighten, and technology disrupts traditional strategies, the Royal Navy must adapt fast. That means new tactics, diversified investments, and a serious re-evaluation of what naval power looks like in the 21st century. The question isn't whether Britain can afford aircraft carriers. The question is whether it can afford the version of naval warfare they represent. Thanks for watching. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And tell us in the comments, do you think aircraft carriers still have a place in modern naval strategy?